Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In the last video, we learned about data structures in Python, list, dictionaries, sets, and tuples. But right now, our code is blind. It can store data, but it cannot make a decision. It does not know when to block an IP address and it does not know how to pull that trigger. Today, we give our script a brain. We are diving into logic and control flow, if statements, for loops, and while loops. Let's get to work. Let's start by creating a separate branch for this tutorial. Okay, and let's create a separate directory. And a separate file. And let's name it tutorial.py. Okay, so we will start with if, elif, and else statement. So let's imagine a scenario. Let's say we have a variable by the name of user and we have a username in it by the name of Kunal. And we have another variable which we have isAdmin, which is set to true. Now the isAdmin variable tells you whether the username is admin or not. Now think of a situation when your script needs to perform certain action if the user is admin and it needs to perform some other actions if the user is not admin. So in this case, what do we do? So we can reference this diagram. Here you can see if a certain condition is met and it is true, do something. If a certain condition is not met, do something else, and then the rest of code executes. So how do we do this? We use the if and else block. To see it in action, we just write if and then we write the condition. In this case, isAdmin. If we have not covered the comparison operator, the double equal to sign compares the value on the left hand side to the right hand side. The single equal to operator assigns the value, but the double equal to operator compares the value. So if isAdmin equal to true, then we use the colon and write our code. What we need to do when the condition is true. In this case, let's print the user is an admin, treat carefully. Okay, and then we write an else block, again using a colon, and we write print f the user is not an admin, no concerns. And let's run this code. Here you can see we got the output, the user Kunal is an admin, treat carefully. Let's simply change it to false and run it again. Now you can see the user is not an admin, no concern. So as you can see, only this block executes if the admin is true and this block executes if the admin is false. Let's comment it out. Okay, now let's think of another situation. Let's say we had a variable by the name of access level and the access level contains a value, in this case let's say super user. Also, this access level variable that we defined, it can have values of standard, it can have value of power user, or it can have value of super user. So in this case, what if we had to use the same decision flow to do some certain action if the user is standard, to do some other actions if the user is power user, and do some other actions if the user is super user? Now the first thought in this case would be to write something like this: if access level equal to standard, print standard user. Then you can write else, and inside the else you can again write if access level equal to power user, print power user, and then we have an else and you print super user. Now this does the job, but the point here is, what if there were not 3 users, there were 5 users, or there were 7 users? We can't just keep on nesting this further and further. It will make the code look very ugly and very unreadable. To solve this issue, we have the Elif statement. So what Elif statement does is, it simply you can read Elif as else if. It allows you to define, for example, let's just remove this. So after this block, if the access level is standard, print standard user, you can use elif and define another condition, which in this case would be power user, and we print power user. And then we write an else block. But you can also write multiple elif statement. You can write if access level equal to something else, and then you can write your another code, and then eventually you can write your else statement at the end. So using this, you can define multiple condition instead of one single condition. Let's just write here super user, and let's print it out. Here you can see we got the output of super user since it matches the block here. Let's look at this diagram to understand this better. You can pause your screen and look at it. It's exactly what we have been talking about in our code. Okay, so since we are on the if, elif and else statements, let's also cover the pass statement and what it does. Imagine for this case, when the access level is standard, you don't want to do anything. You don't want to print anything, you don't want any actions to be taken, and you directly want to go to elif block. So your first thought would be to just leave it blank and go ahead with the next statements. But what if we run it? If we run it, you will get an error that the intended block after if statement is not found. So how to fill it? Now another thought could be to simply write a comment. You can write no need to do anything, and then you can run it. But again, it does not fix it. To fix this kind of scenario, we can simply write pass keyword. When you write pass, what it does is, it does nothing. It moves to the next block. So you can use it as a placeholder when you are moving to the next block, or in this case, it might be possible that you are writing the rest of the code and then you will come back here later to write this code depending on the scenario. So you can use pass as a placeholder and it won't make your code fail. So let's comment these out. Now let's shift our focus towards for loops. What exactly they are and how they help. Let's understand this with a real world example. Imagine you have a list, and a list contains port numbers, which could be 21, 22, 80, and 443, and so on. Now your task is to print all of these port numbers one by one, and we are expecting an output something like scanning port 21. Then we want scanning port 22. Then we want scanning port 80. Now one possible way of doing it could be that you write print, you use f strings, and you write scanning port, and you mention port of 0th element, right? And then what you do is you duplicate it and you do it for the first value, and you do it so on, so on, so on. And if you run it, it will work well. It will write 21, 22, 80, 443. But this is not a right fix. I mean, imagine if the list has 50 elements, 80 elements, 100 elements, or 1000 elements. You can't write if statements. You can't write print statements for all of them. So that is where the for loops or the loops come into picture. The loops allow you to iterate over every single element of our data structure. In this case, it is a list. So if we want to perform certain actions on every single item inside a data structure, we can use a loop. Let's start looking at the syntax for the for loop. So you start the loop with for. Then you can use an iterator. An iterator could be any variable. You can name it anything. Let's name it simply x. For x, and then we type the in keyword, and then we use the variable. So if you look at the syntax, it defines for x in port. So this variable x will start at 21 at the 0th index, and then it will go one by one to all the positions. And how it does it? So it will start with 21, and whatever code we will write below this, it will execute that code for 21 value. Once this block finishes, the block will again start from the beginning for the port 22, and then it will again start for 80, and it will go on and on and on. So if I simply type print statement here and I type scanning port, and we mention X here because X is the iterator exactly that is storing the value of 21. And let's add a new line for better readability. And let's print it out. Now you can see, okay, we did not need that. So let's print it out. So as you can see, scanning port 21, 22, 80, 443. So we are looping through each individual item one by one in this case. We can also use the if-else block that we talked about above inside these for loops. Let's understand that, what we mean. Okay. So for example, let's say we had a test case that if the port was 22, we mentioned that, oh, sensitive port 22 found. And for the rest of the ports, we don't want to do, we want to do a simple print. So what we can do is, inside this intended block, we could do if x equal to 22, print sensitive port, and we simply mention x. And if that is not the case, we can simply say normal port and then the value of the port which is stored in x, and then we simply run it. Here you can see normal port 21, sensitive port 22, normal port 80, normal port 443. So this is how you can use if-else statement within a for, or depending on the use case or depending on the code you are writing, you can do anything you want. Now, since we are on this same topic, we will also try to cover the break and continue statements and what exactly do they mean. Okay. So imagine the scenario here we have is, we have the same list of port 21, 22, 80 and 443. Our aim is to iterate through this list and stop exactly when port 22 is found and then do nothing after that. What I mean to say is that we start looking at the list, we see that, okay, there is, let's add some other port here. Let's add some value. Let's add 1. So we start at the beginning. X starts at the 0th iterator, 0th index. We start at 1. Then we check, do we have 1? No, we don't have 1. Then we check 21. Then we check 22. Now our goal or our use case is that when we detect 22, we need to print something and then we can skip the rest of the values. We don't care about them. So how do we do that? So let's say we write our code for X in port, and our aim is to check if value is 22. If X is equal to 22, we can simply print we found it. Let's use F strings also. We found it, port number, and let's have X. Else we can simply print still looking for it, currently at port, and then we can type the X. Now if you run it, what output do you expect? Here you can see we start at, let's have this here for better visibility. So we start at 1. So we say this condition does not match. So we say, okay, still looking for it, currently at port 1. Then we look at 22. Then we found it, port number 22. But again, the iteration completes for port 80 and 443. But that's not what we wanted, right? We wanted it to stop as soon as we found it. That's where the break statement comes into play. So whenever you type a break statement inside a block, inside a loop, so in this case, so whenever a port X equal to 22 is detected, we simply type the break. What break does it breaks out of the loop in which it is present. In this case, the closest loop which it is part of is this one. the for loop. As soon as we hit this if block, we break out of this loop and our code reaches outside it, which is here. So if you run this case, you will see still looking for it currently at port 1, still looking for it currently at port 21, and we found it port number 22. And as soon as we found it, we also break out of the entire loop. And that's how the break statement works. The second thing we have is continue. Now what continue does it skips the current iteration, or it skipped the rest of the code for this iteration. Now what we mean by it, let's understand it. Let's simply pass this and let's print this is the rest of the code in the for loop which will run. Okay, let's run it. Okay, let's remove the break statement. So as you can see, what will happen in this case? In this case, we will start at 1. We will say, okay, so this block, as you can see, it's neither part of if, it's not the part of else, which means that this will execute for every iteration. Here, this is rest of the code in the loop which will run. So first it ran for port number 1, then it ran for port number 21. Then we ran this code, we found it port number 22, but also after that it ran for port number 22. Then it ran for 80, then it ran for 443. Now the requirement here, or the use case we are trying to create here, is what if we wanted to skip printing the rest of the code when we found something. Like in this case, if x equal to 22 is detected and we found it, let's add an f string here and x. Okay, better. Here you can see it ran for 1, it ran for 21, then the if statement ran, and then it ran for 22, then it ran for 80, then it ran for 443. What we want to do here is, as soon as it detects port number 22 is present, or as soon as certain condition is met, we don't want the rest of the code which is sitting behind or which is sitting in the for loop to be executed. So what we do is we simply write a continue statement. So when you write continue, as soon as the loop detects a continue keyword, it skips the rest of the code and it moves to the next iteration. So if you run this, here you can see it ran for 1, it ran for 21, and as soon as it detected port number 22 in the code, it skipped this, it did not run this code, and it skipped to the next iteration, which was 80. And then the code ran for port number 80 and port number 443. So those are the two statements, continue and break, which can help you manipulate the loops in the way you want for your code. Let's comment it out. So the last but not the least, we have while loops. While loops run until a certain condition is met or until a certain condition is true. What we mean to say is, let's say you have a variable by the name of number and the value of number is 0. Now, if I type, it starts with while, and if I type while number is less than or equal to 10, do this. So until this number is less than equal to 10, this code will keep on executing. So if I simply write print and use an f string, number is equal to, and then we type the number. Now if I run this, it will be an infinite loop. Why so? The number is 0. It will print, we will start this loop. The number is less than equal to 10. Is 0 less than equal to 10? Yes. So this code will execute. It will print number equal to 0. And then since this iteration is over, it will again go to the top to check the condition. It will see number is 0. Is 0 less than 10? Yes. Then it will again print number is 0. And it will keep on going again and again and again until this condition is set to false. So until this condition is true, the code block will keep on executing again and again. So how do we solve this? We can simply do is number equal to number plus 1. Or to write it neatly, you can also do something like number plus equal to 1. And when you run it, here you can see, so number was 0, so we printed number equal to 0. And then number plus equal to 1 means that number is now incremented by 1. It simply means number equal to number plus 1. So number is now 1. Then it checks, it is 1 less than 10. Yes, it is less than 10. So it prints number is 1. And then the loop goes on and on and on and on. At one point of time, the number becomes 10. And then it checks, is 10 less than equal to 10? Yes, so number is 10. Then the number becomes 11. Is 11 less than equal to 10? No, it's not. So then we exit this loop. This intended block is being exited and we are back to the rest of the code. So you can use these loops or these if-else statement depending on what kind of logic and control flow you are trying to build. I'll pause the video to convert this code into a more readable format so we can push this to our centralized repository. Okay, so the code has been cleaned up and now it is ready to be pushed into production or to our centralized GitHub repository for that matter. So we will just check what is the status. We will add logic and control flow. To confirm, you can again run the status command. Not sure if we saved it, so let's check it again. Okay, it's fine. So we can do git commit. We can write this is a tutorial code for logic and control flow. Once it's committed, we can push the code. And I think it was named loop. No, it was not named loop. What was the branch name? It was loops. Okay, let's name it loops. And yeah, here we have the link. Let's create it here. Creating the pull request. We merge it, create merge commit, delete the branch. And yeah, now if you check in which branch you are, you're in the main branch, and let's do a git pull. Okay, so everything is fine. So you now know how to store massive amounts of data and write the logic for the code. In the next video, we are going to learn about list comprehensions in Python. Like, share and subscribe to secure your feed, and I'll see you in the next one. Keep defending.